Christian women are unattractive. 67,000 people agree that Christian women are unattractive. Now, I know the title says religious women are unattractive, but when you listen to what he's saying, he's describing, at least in part, a Christian worldview as it relates to marriage. And he says that y'all Christian women are unattractive. And I had to bring this to y'all to see what y'all thought about this. Also, y'all can't give advice at all. Y'all give terrible advice. Not only are you unattractive, but you give terrible advice. That is crazy. 90,000 people agree that y'all give terrible advice. Listen, I'm going to defend y'all because, I got me a little thing. She loved Jesus. She loved the Lord. She loved to be in her Bible. And you know what I'm saying? I got to defend y'all. I'm going to hold it down. I got y'all. Sit back. I got y'all. Just relax. Just watch. Listen, I got y'all. But let's listen to this brother real quick. He's going to explain why he believes religious women are unattractive. All right, let's go.
Religious women are not attractive. I'm not a misogynist. You just got to hear me out. I don't want nobody who's a feeble-minded sheep who cannot think for themselves. If you cannot critically think for yourself, bro, it don't even got to be on no deep. You don't even got to know all the wonders of the universe or the secrets. I don't even care about all of that, bro. But if you cannot think outside of a book, like if your life is solely dependent on this male-centered book that was used to colonize people, I think the biggest thing for me is like confidence. I admire confidence. I like confident women. And religious women, they just be so insecure and they be focusing outside of themselves. Like they be idolizing men and the masculine. And it's just not for me. Let's say I'm religious. I wouldn't even want you to try to commit to me or submit to me because you think I'm a man of God and you think that's what you need to do in order to get to heaven. That don't even sit right with me. And it goes both ways. It's like dudes who use religion to manipulate women into committing or submitting to them. They're losers, bro. That's lame. That's weird. I'm not even discriminating against religious people. Keep in mind, my girl come from a religious background. She got religious values, but she can critically think for herself. And she has a great self-concept. Like, that's all. That's all it takes. At least I know she ain't gonna slime me out in my sleep in the name of her deity. That's what I'd be really fearing. At least I know she with me, not because some random deity told her to be with me. It's because she actually want to be with me and she actually care. Not for some conditional reason like going to heaven. It's the whole concept is weird to me. Religion.
Hey, this is all I heard when he was talking. Hey, that's all I heard. You know what I'm saying? That's all I heard when he was talking. Hey, I've never heard a dude say that I don't want to be with a woman who desires a masculine man. I've never heard a dude say that, because really what you're saying is that you do not want to be a masculine man. Why would you say that? I have no idea. The only reason that I can think that you're saying that is because you've allowed the world to deceive you into thinking that masculinity is negative. You know what a masculine man is? A leader, a provider, and a protector. That's a masculine man. A masculine man is a leader, a provider, and a protector. So you're saying that you do not desire to be with a woman who wants a leader, a provider, and a protector because you yourself are unwilling or have no desire yourself to be a leader, a provider, and a protector. That's what you're saying, right? So you want to be led, you want to be protected, and you want to be provided for, right? Right? That's what you're looking for. And I'm not saying that a woman can't share in those attributes. A woman can definitely be a leader, a provider, and a protector. A woman can share in those attributes, but if we're talking from a biblical perspective, God has given us as men the role of the leader, the provider, and the protector. That's the role that we have. He said that he doesn't want a woman whose life and belief system revolves around a male-centered book. That's very interesting that he said that, because literally in Genesis 5, right? This is the first book in the Bible, the 5th chapter. It says, When God created man, he made him in the likeness of God, male and female, he created them and blessed them and named them man. Male and female, equality. Equality. So God is establishing in the creation of humans that men and women are equal and that we are both made in his likeness. So men and women are both made in the likeness of God and we are equal. God is establishing that in the first book of the Bible, right? And he blessed them and called them man. So he's talking about humans as a race. That's why we say mankind, right? That's why we say mankind. But we are equal. Men and women are equal. Now we have different roles, right? We have different roles. Men are supposed to be the leader, the provider, the protector, right? A woman is an individual who affirms the man that she's with and receives and nurtures, right? Not to say that men can't do the same thing, but we are called to be that leader, provider, protector. And women are called to be submissive in that way. But it's twofold, kind of like what he was saying. It is twofold because the man has to be worthy of that position. If you are proving yourself to be unworthy, if you are not displaying the attributes of a leader, a provider, a protector, but yet you're demanding that your wife submit to you and follow your lead, even though you're leading her to places that are spiritually harmful, emotionally and physically harmful, then you can't sit here and expect for your wife to submit to that because you are not worthy of that position. Or at least up until that point, you have not proven to be worthy of that position. So if you're using it, as he's saying, as a tool to manipulate, then obviously we're not going to rock with that. But the way that he's saying it is that if a woman desires to have a godly man who desires to be a biblical leader and provider and protector, then that is unattractive. Like, I don't understand what we talking about, dog. That don't make no sense. It sounds like a dude. I don't know how old he is. He looks pretty young. It sounds like a dude who hasn't really been in a lot of relationships. That's what it sounds like. Because guess what's going to happen? If you want to flip the role, if you want to reverse the role, you could do that. If you want to be in your soft era, if you don't want to step into the full calling that God has given you, an authority that God has given you as a man, if you don't want to be that leader, that provider, that protector, if you don't want to be that, bro, you're going to find yourself in relationships with ever increasing tension. You're going to consistently find yourself in relationships that are more and more tense, that are more and more stressful, because you are choosing to swim upstream. You're choosing to go against the way that God created relationships, specifically marriage, to work. So if you want to have a life of stress and of tension, then you can go ahead and do that, bruh. If that's what you want to do, dog. But that's a pretty crazy desire. Y'all give the worst advice. Religious women, y'all give the worst advice.
I'm going to say the thing. Religious women tend to give the worst advice. Their advice is always based on self sacrifice. You are always putting your body, your soul, your mental health on the altar in hopes that it changes others. And so, whenever I am looking for clarity, advice, information on the next step, I never go to religious women because I know that it's never going to be in service of me. It's always going to be in service of the men in their lives. It's always going to be in service of the institution, the Bible, the church, but rarely, 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 rarely will it ever be in service to me? And so when I think about how I plan my committee, because I think every woman who chooses herself should have a committee of people who they come to for reprieve, for advice, for just fellowship, I don't put them on there because I know that what my philosophy is in direct opposition to what they live their life by.
Okay, wait,
I'm going to say
wait. Blah blah
their
blah.
advice is always based on self-sacrifice.
Their advice is always based on self-sacrifice.
You are always putting your body, your soul, your mental health on the altar in hopes that it changes others. And so whenever I am looking for clarity, advice, information on the next step, I never go to religious women because I know that it's never going to be in service of me. It's always going to be in service of the men in their lives. It's always going to be in service of the institution, the Bible, the church, but rarely, 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 rarely will it ever be in service to me. And so when I think about how
Okay, I just had to listen again because I didn't really understand the point that she was trying to make. Okay, first things first. I like your hair. I think it's dope. But your argument, very weak. It's very weak. It just is. It sounds like a personal problem that you have with God. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like you have a personal problem with God. And anybody who believes in God, specifically the God of the Bible, Yahweh, anybody who believes in God, you have a problem with, and you are unwilling to listen to what they have to say because you know that it's going to challenge you in a way that you are unwilling to be challenged because you don't like the truth. That's really what you're saying. Let's just decode. Let's just break it everything. Let's just break it down. You don't like the truth. You've developed your own truth in your imagination, and that's what you want to live according to. And you want to have people around you that will affirm your truth as opposed to challenge it. And that's typically what you see with, quote, religious women, as you say. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that as human beings, we always say the right things. As Christians, we always say the right things and that we always have the best advice, because we don't. We're human beings. We don't. We're going to make mistakes. We're not going to communicate things how they ought to be communicated all of the time. But you can't always look at humans to be perfect representations of God. You have to go to him directly. You have to go to him directly. Because it sounds like an individual who has experienced some sort of trauma from a religious standpoint. At some point in her life, something happened from a religious context that was very traumatic and caused her to put up this wall. But you're not putting up a wall to people. You're putting up a wall to God, ultimately, because that's who you're rejecting. That's who you're denying. Anyway, that didn't really make it a lot of sense. Maybe I'm just not very bright and I couldn't understand the argument that she was trying to make. What do y'all think? Get in my comments, like this video. I'm out, y'all.